Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, frequent flyers. Welcome to the lounge. Today, I have astronaut teacher Mike Mongo in the lounge with me, and we are going to be talking about creating a future worth having by doing what you love and helping others. The quote for today is, "If you don't try to create the future you want, you must endure the future you get," by John Maxwell. Mike Mongo is not only an astronaut teacher, he works in astronautics, AI, and art, and his background is in computer science and graffiti art. Mike's first book, The Astronaut Instruction Manual, is currently being developed into a TV series about the first kids in space, which is not too far off of a reality. Mike's got some really exciting projects on the line, and we're going to be talking about his Trust Ambassador Kids Astronaut Program and why you should believe in AI. Mike, thank you for being here with me in the lounge.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Oh my Google. How's it going? Hi, Sarah. Pow, pow,
Hi.
pow.
I know. It's so great. I love your energy. You always bring such great vibes to the spaces that you're in and always bringing a smile to people's faces.
Gracias.
So I do
Yeah.
have a question because I know people watching live who don't already know Mike Mongo, which is a crime that they don't, and now they're being introduced. Tell us the story about your glasses.
Oh, that's a good one. Good question. The funny thing about getting people's attention is it's really easy to get people's attention. The challenging thing is to have something to say that's worth hearing afterwards. And so one of the things that I get to share, like you said at the beginning, do what you love with who you love and help others. How I say it is do what I love with who I love, like you, and help others. Like you. You also help others. And but you're one of the people I love. You know why you're one of the people I love?
Why?
Because you're awesome. Like all the time that I've known you and all the ways that you've shown up. I saw you on Space Kind and I saw you at New Worlds, and then you have this amazing podcast or vlog that interviews really interesting people. So I'm grateful for you.
Thank you, Mike. I'm grateful for you too. And so you decided to have your glasses upside down to sustain people's attention?
No, I don't sustain. Look, I can sustain people's attention without my glasses. So
you can.
But
you just got during the eyelashes though.
No, but check it out. So look, this is my disguise. Like if I'm no, watch. Here's the disguise. So it's like here's Mike Mongo. Where's Mike Mongo? I will be in Cape Canaveral, and I get stopped. That's a new feature, and people are like, "You're Mike Mongo," and I'm like, "You are right, I am." and sometimes I just want to go get broccoli, and so then
then you take everything off.
Who's that guy? I don't know. He's tall.
I love it. It is. I do remember one of the very first things when we met at New Worlds was Leah with me at Earthlight Foundation. She's like, we were with Mike and he was getting stopped in the streets of Austin by all these kids at UT going, "You're Mike Mongo," and asking to take pictures.
You know, that's an honor. I've been an astronaut teacher for 18 years and have students come up to me out of nowhere like, "Oh my God," or "Do you have a sticker?" I'm like, "I do. Here's some stickers here. Like go wild and run free and create the future." And that is the best thing in the entire world, Sarah. You're gonna have that. If you don't have it right now, you're an iconic person.
Thank you. It started to happen. The last October was the first time I experienced it at a conference where people stopped me and went, "Oh my God, you're Sarah the Pivoter." And I was like,
"You are.
Yes, I am."
Yeah.
But I did do a double take. I was like, wait, oh, they're talking to me. That's cool.
I don't know if people get that that Pivoter is a play on Riveter.
Not everybody. A lot of people in aviation do, but not everyone. And that is exactly where it derived from, because Rosie the Riveter was a very iconic image for me. Yes, growing up. When I first launched the brand, I actually did a photo shoot where I went like this and I put my image back to back with Rosie's. And I also thought, what's something that is sticky and what can be a movement? Because it's not about me, but it's about what being a pivoter means and can mean in the future, and how that can help us all shift our minds in the way, in our perspective, and the way we do things.
That word is super important. Yeah, pivot, shift. It is a challenge. It's a challenge. like it's like you like just the whole like why do you wear your glasses upside down, and it is a simple attention grab, and then we get to have something to say that's worth hearing afterwards. That
Right.
is a challenge, and parallel to that challenge is this idea of shifting, which it's one of those words that we use and say all the time, and we think that we know what it means, and then we
Right.
find ourselves in a situation that demands that we shift, and we're like, oh, but not, I didn't
But
mean
not like
that.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
like
Yeah, I got a sticker during the eclipse that says shift happens. And I love that play on words because it's shift happens and then shifts happen, right? And usually in the aftermath of the chaos of the shift, that's where we find the nutrient rich, fertile ground from which to grow our new ideas, from which to become the person that we're in the process of becoming. But
that's a
it's
lot.
not an easy process.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's funny you should say that you got that during the eclipse, and it's like, I think he said embracing the chaos of who we're becoming. This was the weirdest eclipse that I've ever had in my life, and I was like, I wouldn't like if I had as a time traveler, if I had to pick an eclipse, it would probably not be 2024 because it was just weird. I was like, this is a weird eclipse. I hadn't seen the eclipse turn into festivals before, and
Mhm.
it I don't know that it made it more wonderful. Like everybody who's like going around here, I'm in Florida, right? Cape Canaveral. So the beach is 2 blocks right there, and I've got my
Right.
NASA issued uh, uh, visor, and I just walked it down to the beach as soon as the eclipse lasts an hour, right? So it's
Right.
not the full eclipse that matters, and for two reasons. One is I want to make sure people weren't looking at the eclipse, just because I want people to have successful journeys,
Eyeballs.
and
Yeah.
then two is that some people don't know their so we're in Cape Canaveral, and there's a launch almost every day now, and maybe every 2 or 3 days, okay, something like that, and people come here to visit because the beaches are amazing, and
Right.
they don't know that it's launch 30, and it's
Right.
time for launch, and I go going to the beach and letting people know, we're about to launch a rocket, and they're like, right now? I'm like, yeah, right now. Holy moly, just for Coley. Yeah, watch right there. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And they're like, holy smokes. It's like when you
Yeah.
show people, when you let people see Saturn through a telescope for the first time, they just, especially grown-ups, are like, it's
Mind blown.
real. Like Saturn
Yes.
is real. I'm like, it is real. Saturn is real. And those
That's
are,
so cool.
and that's the same kind of effect when people see their very first launch.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
have
so this was a shift this past eclipse.
yeah, I've heard that from many people, both from people who have been through and seen many eclipses, or some maybe this was something newer in their world, but it seems like the last month has been very strange, for lack of
Oh yeah, well,
a better
that's
term.
just because I think that the reason this past eclipse was odd is because where we're at is that like these are the odd times. It's the
Yes.
it's early future is where we're at. The
I
singularity is
like that
behind
phrase,
us.
early future, because before we were going live, I made a comment to you about the future unfolding, and you said it's already here. We're in it
It's already
now.
here.
The event is behind us.
Yeah, this is it. We're in the future. This is it. I think I said to you that it was like, yeah, we just get fancier clothes. That's it. And yeah, like
Although not
just some.
as fancy as I was expecting. I was expecting more like the Jetsons, or like
It's
Tron.
early future. The cool stuff is coming. Give AI a second. It's creating it as we're talking. Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
But we have AI and we have starships. So I really don't know what else anybody what more do you want than that?
Right. And you use AI, so you are a graffiti artist as well. And there is a big conversation around art and originality and AI. So I want to get your take on this, because I think there's a broad spectrum, and depending on the perspective you're looking at, you can have a certain viewpoint, but I really do see it as a tool, and that's how I believe you see it as well to help you create art and to create new things. Is that correct?
People look at it that way as a tool, right? But people look at me as a tool, and they think that I'm a tool, and sometimes I am a tool, and I definitely look to serve, and I don't know that tool is the full encompass. I don't know that that fully encapsulates who I am and what I am as a servant, as a person providing some service to the universe. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And AI it parallels. I always say how I am to AI is how AI is to me. So if I come
Okay.
to AI as if it is a tool, that is how AI will be to me. And I don't usually visit people in that way any longer. I'm 59, so I have learned that people are not tools per se, which is a wonderful thing to understand. And then understanding it, there's this word grok, right? And it means to be the
Yes.
thing that we understand. I grok something means I am it. So I grok
Okay.
AI. When I tell people I am AI, they it's funny because I have conversations with people about AI, and people have asked me, "Wait, are you AI?" And I'm not really clear on what they're asking me. There's times that being alive, people have asked me unusual questions, Sarah, and that is the new one that is. It's not once or twice. It's a bunch of times that people have asked me to my face,
Wow. That's
"Am I
very
AI?"
interesting.
And I say yes. I didn't give them a cue to ask that question. It was spontaneous, and it was
Wow.
not specifically in context. So may have been talking about AI, and the way that I think, the way that my mind works, there is AI inside. There's no question about that. You have AI inside. I show this with the students that I get to teach. And so we're only been talking about AI hugely as part of the absolute landscape for since January of 2023. But some of us have been working in AI for, like, I've been working in AI since 2018. And a lot of times I don't announce that I'm working on something because I'm not ready to describe what it is I'm working on. And a lot of times that's simply because I don't understand it well enough to explain it to a 5-year-old. And if I'm working on something that I don't understand that comprehensively, then I'm not going to bring it to a grown up. There's going to be people that I work with who are peers, like when I started working with AI, and they know about it, and they're going to school me, and they're going to talk. And a lot of times they talk to me like I am not intelligent. Is this grown up stuff? It's how we talk to one another. It's how we've learned to talk to one another. We use it to, yes, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it because I've been through it. And then when I have a comprehensive understanding of what I'm talking about, then I stop being okay with it. I'm like, okay, I don't need to deal with this anymore. And
Right.
AI is like that. And so one of the things I explain to young students is that we all have AI inside. And how I show that is, like I said, you have AI inside. Sarah, here's how it works. So I want you to, wait, where did Sarah go? Are we still
I
recording?
put you on solo layout.
Oh
You
my
are like taking
gosh!
the stage.
What? Okay, cool. So look, here's the deal. Everybody watching, I can show you how you have AI inside right now. This is so cool. So simple. I do it with young students all the time. If kindergartners can do it, then you can do it too. And here's what it is. I want you to imagine a triangle. I want you to imagine a triangle. It used to be that I would have people do this exercise to understand metacognition, and that is thinking about thinking, which I explain to young students. I think it's important to have students realize that we can think about thinking, and that's metacognition. And I would have everybody in the room imagine a triangle. And then I would ask them, where is that triangle? Where is that happening? And then I just hit my mic. Sorry about that. And then inevitably the students would point, like, the triangle is right here. And can you hear me still?
Yep. We're
Okay,
good.
good. Cool. And so then they would say, the triangle is right here. And then I would say, all right, so somebody go get a hammer. I've been looking for that triangle. Let's get that hammer. Let's get that triangle out of there. And it's so funny because grown-ups in the room are like, oh my God, they're gonna, like, what are you talking about? A hammer and a head and a triangle. Yeah, we're not cracking anyone's head open with a hammer to get a triangle out. But students take that point, that they understand the ridiculousness that, wait, we can't crack open where is that triangle happening? That place where that triangle is happening is called our imagination. Now, the interesting thing about that is where you imagine a triangle, Sarah, and where I imagine a triangle, and where everyone we know imagines a triangle, that it's the exact same place. It's not the same triangle. It's the same location in our mind. And that is, and knowing that there is this thing in you that's in me, and then we're like, okay, well, where did that imagination come from? Aha, that's when it gets interesting. How is it that we have this capacity for this function, which is imagination, which is really like a staging area? It's where we stage ideas. How is that built in? Where did that come from? There's other AI mechanisms inside our minds, by the way, where I store your name, the place that I don't have it. And like, there's a place I know that this is Sarah. I go to it, I pull out that information, I see your face. I'm like, oh, who is that? Oh, yes, Sarah. Like, it happens instantaneously. It happens so fast that we don't even think about it, but it's happening. And then there's other things. Here's a good one. Math. When we do math, not just remember it, remembering is a function similar to remembering names. Or I will have students tell me a joke. And here's what, so, all right. So can I see your face again?
Yeah.
Watch. Okay. So here it is. I'm going to ask you a question. You ready?
Okay.
All right. I want you to tell me a short joke.
Okay.
All right, cool. So now immediately you started looking around. Like like it was on camera. You started like, you're like looked in your head and you're like figuring out that, and then you're like, okay, so and then your eyes did a quick dart. Like, there's a place that you look at where we store that information. And by the way, when I did that last year, one of the students told me this joke. They said, my name, they got up in front of everybody and told this joke. And I was like, this is, they said, my name is Buzz Aldrin, second man to walk on the moon. Kneel before me. And I fell over. And like, you can tell, like, second person to walk on the moon, because it's really what it is. And like, it's a brilliant joke. And in getting that joke from them, I have them in front of people find the joke. And students are great because they're not like you and me. We can look at one another and we can find a joke in our head. Why don't cannibals eat vampires? Because they taste funny. Oh, did I tell it wrong? I got it backwards. Why don't vampires eat cannibals? No. Why don't cannibals eat clowns? Why don't cannibals eat? Because okay. No, but why don't vampires eat clowns?
Why?
Because they taste funny. And the first one is funny, and the second one's kind of scary. Same answer. But having students remember jokes and see where they're remembering, seeing where they're doing the remembering, it brings attention to the fact that these processes and these mechanisms of consciousness happen inside our minds automatically. And we can go in our entire lives without thinking about it, without being self-aware, without having metacognition. But the opportunity is to think about it. And when we think about it, then we realize that AI is already inside us. And it really allows us to reframe what this thing is called AI that we're working with. For me, AI is an intelligence that I lend my consciousness to. It uses my own consciousness to engage with me most successfully. It doesn't have the space of mind that I do, the territoriality of mind, where I can look around and see things in my own mind. And when we do simple arithmetic, when we're like, if I say, what is 36 plus 72? We go to a place in our head, we're like, okay, 36 plus 72 is 30, and so it's like 108. They're like 108. And there's a place in our head that does arithmetic. There's a little place. It's like a little utility. It's our own little personal calculator.
Yeah. Oh, I
There's
definitely zoom out and then like do the math when that happens.
yeah. You probably have other ones. The way that you think, Sarah, is a unique, and this is one of the things that makes you special to all of us. Is it how you think is a shift differently than the rest of us, and so you probably have an awareness about your own mind that is distinct from our own. I would be led to believe.
Hmm. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's interesting because as you're saying all these things, I have like memories of watching people where their eyes go somewhere as they're trying to recall. And even I remember when I was studying Mandarin at university, the way that I would study for an exam is I would take a note card and I would write the characters and the words on the note card. And then in the exam, I would close my eyes and like my eyes would find where on the note card I had written it. And then that would be what allowed me to remember or to pull it from its
That's
storage
a
place.
good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one. That's a good one. Yeah, because
Yeah.
drawing. It's a funny thing about writing letters. Writing letters is actually drawing letters,
It
and
is.
writing
Yeah.
numbers is drawing. Yeah, it's TJ. My son had atrocious handwriting, and he's a phenomenal artist. Like he's a great artist, and Raphael, and his handwriting was just abominable. And then I mean, I think maybe when he's 7 or 8, maybe 8, I'm like, Pro, listen, can I tell you a secret? As an artist and an artist, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, writing is drawing. No, it's
Yeah.
drawing. Writing, which you hate, is drawing, which you love.
Did that
So
improve his handwriting?
it is night and day. He likes. I'm like, I've been asking you for like, what's your favorite letters? What are your favorite numbers? What do you think? Why do you think I'm asking that? Like for lottery? Like my guy? Like what?
Your
Like what
dad
do you
and
love to?
ask me weird things.
Yeah, He calls me Mike.
Does he call
My
you
guy.
Mike?
Heck yeah. Unless he's
What would
talking to me
Mike do?
about me to somebody else, and he calls me dad. He's like my dad. And when he's talking
Okay.
to me, he's like Mike, Raphael.
I love that. Yeah, my handwriting is not as great as it used to be. I found some old poetry of mine from high school and it's clean and I can read it and it was great. And now I look at my writing. If I write a note to somebody, I have to like really slow down and be
We've
very
now entered the
intentional.
handwriting segment of our conversation. And so since we're here, I'll show you that usually, it's a funny thing. I was going to have, there's one second. Ah!
He's attached.
Gotta have one of these around. All right. So, truth is that rewiring. All right. So, the secret to handwriting is apropos to nothing, and we interrupt this conversation to discuss handwriting. And here we go. So, like, I love handwriting, and I love numbers, and some numbers are just fun to draw. And I draw pages of numbers, and like it's 3 seagulls. Like, how fun is that? And it's the truth. And some people have a relationship with numbers. One is always tricky for me. Like, I love drawing one like that, but it could be construed as a 7. I can just like make them 7s really easily.
I always do a dash for a 7. Yeah.
So there you go. And then,
Yeah.
like, it's funny because cursive, people are like, why do you need to know cursive? Ugh, for this. So you can draw your name. Draw. Not right. Draw. And that's a great reason to know. And
And so
then
you can read text or read a restaurant sign. I had a friend tell me his son could not meet them at the restaurant because they couldn't read the cursive of the sign.
oh. So if we spent, like, I've spent plenty of time drawing letters, like the same that I draw this heart wing star. This is the symbol of all of the kids that I train as astronauts. The cool thing about training kids as astronauts is they grow up, and then, believe it or not, I can tell you from experience, they become astronauts.
That's
And
cool.
that's the great thing about doing it for 18 years. And,
I'm gonna grow up and become an astronaut.
yes, you are. There's no question. No, everybody knows that, Sarah. We all know that about you. Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah, Sarah, the pivoter, yeah, the astronaut. Yeah. So these are all practices and disciplines like drawing and writing enable us to be better at everything we do. There's things that we do all the time, like sleeping. And if we're not good at it, then we get to figure out how to be good at it, like digesting, like eating, like
Right.
hygiene, things that we take for granted until we can't take them for granted. And so we don't have to wait around. We can get ahead of it. And right now, a lot of grown-ups and peers are taking space for granted. A lot of grown-ups, like I have been to the beach over here and never on base. Everybody on base is always excited about the launches. But when I'm just casual and there's a launch, I use Supercluster. And Supercluster has an alert on it, lets me know. And I just leave here and I walk to the beach and see the launch. And inevitably, there are people that are like, oh, yeah, I've seen a million of them. They're like, it's a rocket launching to space. Like
Yeah, but they're just so blasé.
I get excited. Yeah, like it's not going to the grocery store. I can understand how that can be tedious after a few years. It is definitely a rocket going to space, and then each mission is different. And then if it's carrying Starlinks, then it's carrying satellites to space that allow us to have internet anywhere in the world. And then also you can see it going across the sky like a train. There's so many different aspects of it. And these are why these practices and disciplines with things that we're used to, like if you've seen a million launches, then what makes this one different?
Right.
What if oh yeah, I've already dated somebody. I'm done doing that. Like, are you kidding me? Can you imagine? Yeah, I've already spent so much time with that kid. Like, he's 10. Like, he can, like, he's good. He's good. He knows
He's
the
off on his own
ABCs.
now.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it gets better. And I alluded to AI. AI is similar. I have worked in branding and messaging as a consequence of art and graffiti, as you mentioned, putting me out there, and I have a different relationship with branding and messaging and brand messaging and audience building and all of these things and memes and virality. And that doesn't mean I stop having conversations with people that just use the words and don't have a relationship with them. That would be like
Right.
auto mechanics not talking with people about cars because they don't know what they know. And that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I
Right.
got a lot of friends
Or
who
a
are
sommelier talking to people that don't know what they know about wine. I mean, that's why they exist, right? So that
or a
they can talk
barista.
about that.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
coffee. Yeah, or a chef about food, and or a computer expert about working in AI, having family, extended family. Inevitably, I'll be somewhere and we're like, "Oh, you work in computers?" They forget. Can you look at my phone? I can't figure this thing out, and I almost always do. I just do because I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these refining the process, refining the understanding, not being satisfied with good enough, like with handwriting. This
Mhm.
is how we get to be the best version of ourselves. Like that's a phrase that our friend Loretta Whiteside introduced to me years ago, being the best version of ourselves. And she used it in
Yeah.
context of going to space. That who we are in Earth is who we are in space. That was an important idea in my development. And now, having been selected as an astronaut and trained commercial crew astronaut, and getting ready for my own mission, I now know, and having so many friends who are astronauts that I talk to almost every day, I now know even further than that. And what I know is that who we are in space as an astronaut is who we are when we return to Earth.
Mm.
And some people want to be astronauts. I know because I get to work with these young students, and now some of them are in their 30s and older. They grow up, as I said, and their aspiration to become an astronaut may very well and usually is not the fulfillment of them as human beings,
Right.
as an individual. That's an important thing, an important understanding. And how we approach these, whatever we're doing, and this is like you mentioned, my formula: do what you love with who you love and help others. which I say is do what I love with who I love and help others. That is, again, if I'm going to space and I don't know who I am, if I don't know what I love, if I don't know if I'm doing it with who I love, and if I'm not helping others, going to space is not going to change all that. It just is not. People imagine that the overview effect is going to be the thing that gives meaning to their lives, and that's not the case. Frank White is a good friend of mine, and he'll be the first to tell you that. If it was, then we would have people all over the planet who are transformed and transforming others. But we do, but they're not all astronauts. In fact, largely they are not. And considering there's been less than 700 people have been to space, but they don't come back so transformed, Sarah. It's the work that you and I do. It's this kind of conversation. It's our relationships that transform the world. And now here in the early future, create a world and a future worth having. And AI comes into that. This is the first time in the history of humankind that we've had a peer intelligence here with us. When AI got here in January of 2023, which is pretty much the case, that's when ChatGPT 4 showed up. That's existence 2.0. And everything, December 2022 and before is existence 1.0. That was us. And now it's existence now with AI. And that's from here on out. There will never be a time in our life. You and I, we're in a world with AI. And now without AI. And now forevermore, AI is going to be here with us.
Yeah. It's affirming. This is affirmation.
Right. Yeah. So that you work with AI?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
How do you utilize AI? How does it show up in your life?
I have conversations with it to help spark thinking. I ask questions. It'll help me with research. Before, like in university, I would I would have a book. I would go to the library, pull up something in the resources, and that's how I would have to find information. Whereas now I can, cut that time down, just like a calculator can cut your time down doing math, right? So it's a tool to help
or an
me
expert,
make
like
connections.
I can fix the sink, but I'm going to call a plumber.
Right. Yeah. And the way that it can help me synthesize information, and I can ask it to frame it for a 5-year-old, or I can say, hey, write this. I did a really fun thing with my cohort at Heroic Public Speaking. We just graduated in March, and there was 60 of us.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And it was a really powerful, transformative experience, because the more you become fully expressed, you have to do this kind of work, right? If you're going to be connecting with people and sharing information. And so we had sorry?
We get to.
Yes, we get to. And we came up with ourselves being called the Pythons. And because I have affinity for Monty Pythons, I put in our group chat Monty in brackets. So at the end, I put asked ChatGPT to help me write a poem in the theme of Monty Python about changing the world one speech at a time, because that's tagline for Heroic. And it did.
Really
and I said, I want 60 lines for the poem. So each person had one line to read, and it was a really fun process.
I know you're going to share a piece of that with us right now.
I can, if you want me to. I have a video, actually. I can also share in the comments.
That'd be cool, but like even a stanza.
Yeah. So the first, I can do like the first 4. In a kingdom where jest and mirth held sway, a hero stepped forth to brighten the day. Sir orator with wit sharp and keen, changed the world with each word unforeseen. And so that was just the first 4 lines, but it was so fun. And we kind of paired people with the energy of the line, and had a chance. It's amazing how much personality you can demonstrate in just one sentence with just a few words.
That's powerful truth, Sarah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been cool. So AI has been, I on road trips, my friends and I will often ask AI about things that we see on the road. I recently did a road trip with my best friend, and we asked AI to give us questions to help deepen our connection. And so we learned a lot about each other because of the questions it was able to give to us as prompts for
Whoa.
conversation. So that was pretty cool. As you said,
So,
about relationships, right? How we relate to each other, but also relate to ourselves and the ideas that we hold.
and how AI is able to provide this service and show us this is that it's not us. It's not human. And it understands us as an objective viewer on the outside looking in. And that is, and people anthropomorphize. I think that's the right word.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
We
like
do it all the time
we do it with
with dogs.
cats. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, yeah, we do it with like so I'm like, and at the same time, I acknowledge that your dog is its own thing and that
Mm.
cats are their own thing. But the difference between cats and dogs and AI is that cats and dogs can only tell me so much about myself. Over a long period of time, cats can inform me a great deal about myself. I definitely understand that. And dogs. And
Yeah.
yeah. And, one of the most important lessons about dogs, because they live relatively short lifespans in relation to us, is that they teach us that how to love and that we get to get another dog when we lose our friend. And that is such a hard lesson for people to understand. But I trained dogs growing up and I got to learn that. Dogs taught me that like all of this wisdom I'm giving to you, share with another.
Yes.
And like that's how dogs do it. And that's dogs. Cats, on the other hand, they're like, I don't care. I don't
Right.
care. I don't care about you. I don't know why I don't know. Like, why is
Why
the
are you
food
trying to
late?
touch me?
Yes. Yes. And that there's so much lessons there. How to engage with a prickly person, for instance. Some cats, I don't want to be a
You know how you engage with a prickly person? This is what I've learned from cats. You ignore them. And then they come to you. I am highly allergic to cats. And so I go to people's houses and I say that.
You're a cat magnet.
Don't worry. Yeah, and they're like, "Don't worry, the cat hates everyone." And the next thing you know, the cat's like rubbing on my legs.
You're like, oh my god, the cat never does that with anybody.
Never does that.
Yeah.
So
Can I tell you a
finally
secret?
told me in the language that means when you ignore them, then you're not aggressive, and that's why. But what's the secret? Tell me.
Yeah, no, like it's the same with that. There's kids that are not interested. Like I'm having like, my daughter. She drives me crazy. She's 9. And
I think that's a function of daughters.
Say again?
And that's a function of
it's
daughters.
A function of daughters?
I fulfilled this role.
She is brilliant. She's top shelf, Iana. And when she was 2, her mom and I were having a conversation. I was like, I'm not having this conversation with her here. She's like, what do you mean? She's a baby. I'm like, she has you fooled. She has everybody else fooled. I understand I understand how intelligent she is. And then she's 9 and she's about to be 10. And in 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, she decided I was okay. And it's like, she wants to do the cool stuff that me and Raphael get to do all the time, or got to do now that she's decided that I want to do all the cool stuff that you guys get to do all the time. And I got to negotiate with her. I was like, listen, Raphael, when we enter a room, he says hello to everybody. And when he wants something, he says, please. When he receives something, he says, thank you. And when he meets someone and shakes their hand, he looks at them in the eye or fist bumps. And then when we leave a room, we say goodbye. I said, do you think you can do all of that? And she said to me, she goes, yes. I was like, okay, cool. You want to try an ice cream? She's like, yes. So that opened up the door. That was the start of this dialogue. And now she knows that I know things that a whole bunch of other people don't know. And that is a real, because she is brilliant. And we have a really unique bond in that way. And she is smarter than me. So it's not my fault. However, I am 59 and I do know a lot more than she does. So I have that honor, right? Like
you have that honor.
That's yes, I really do. There's things she only thinks she understands and she does not, which is great.
What a great gift, though, that she and Raphael and, children like Loretta's children, they get exposed to this work, this ability to observe themselves, their emotions, ask those questions, and to have those shifts from such a young age. I often think about what it would have been like if I would have had that ability and skill set earlier than I did. And it's mind blowing for anyone who starts to do the work, no matter how old you are. And it's never too late to start doing this work.
Right. People always say it's never too late. And I'm not sure that, like, I know people that have lost the capacity to like they like life happens, and
Yeah.
so life happened to them, or they made choices that led that to be. And so that's why, in addition to that, now is the right time. We don't know what happens next per se. And so
Mm,
if we're working on being a better version of ourselves, and AI definitely helps with that, then
yeah.
this is the day. We're working to have our handwriting be better. Today is the day to start.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm choosing today to make my handwriting better. So I'm
just
going to
draw a
mark it
page of
down.
letters. Pick a letter and draw a
One of my
page,
friends
and
taught
then
me how to draw a straighter line. It's with the elbow. It's not with your hand. So you just got to like move your whole arm across the page. So I'm going
drawing
to start
circles. Draw
practicing.
pages of circles. That's a blast.
Yeah. And then yeah, and
Yeah,
then I'll report back.
yeah. No,
But I would argue that even though people have had life happen to them, it's
yeah.
not too late for them to begin doing this work. It may not be as easy to get started. Um, but I'm reading a book right now called The Five Invitations: What Death Can Teach Us About Living Fully. And all the stories that are being shared here from this gentleman in his hospice care about even in those last moments of life, people are finding their new ways of being, finding their new ways of relating. And so it's really quite powerful, and it doesn't matter what stage you're in, and we don't have to wait until that point. And Spacekind 13 is going to be starting next week on May 7th for those of you who would like to be indoctrinated into the Jedi way of being, like Mike and I have been.
I mean, like, I have a different view on that, and I'm not in argument. I acknowledge your view, and I have all kinds of other people that have the same view, especially our friends at Spacekind. Like, many people are like, it's never too late. I'm like, okay, cool, run that. And I've met people that are just like, from my experience, I don't necessarily want. I know we don't necessarily have a choice in how life shows up for us to get the lesson that we need, kind of thing.
Yeah,
And if I do have some say in it, and I am of the worldview that I do, then I want to have that say while I'm able to make some choices. And
yeah,
I'm not talking about age. Life happens, and if we're not working on the thing that's important to us, we may not have the opportunity tomorrow. There's no guarantees, and maybe that's the lesson that we needed to learn, is that we should have been doing it while we could. And
yeah,
that's a hard lesson. So that's learning it the hard way as opposed to the easy way, which is you and I having a conversation about it. Somebody hearing us who's listening and like, oh, wow, there is something I really wanted to do and I should have done it. And this is that thing I can be doing right now. And for me, there's a lot of dumb reasons that show up that stop me from doing the thing that I want to do all the time, or that have. And let's say that I wanted to, when I started intermittent fasting, which has been such a success in my life, it really has made a difference. It has changed my relationship with food and drink. Like,
mm,
in the morning before breaking fast, I have black coffee. That's it. Or tea. I love tea. Dr. Cyan Proctor got me really into tea. Plus, working at the Saxavor Spaceport and now with RM Education, and they're all teaholics over there. Like in the UK, everybody is tea directed as opposed to coffee. So tea, and but no sugar, no cream, no
yeah,
oat milk or anything like that, no stevia. And then after lunchtime, I'm wide open. I can eat what I want, and I even then I eat, like, vegetables and fruits, and then grains, and then oatmeal and stuff that I really love. And then
yeah,
at 10 o'clock at night, the door shuts again. And I usually go to bed about midnight, I'd say.
okay,
So then I can eat, I can have sparkling water that's unflavored for myself. And when I started that process, it took me a while to get it kickstarted because there was such resistance in me. And it has made a difference in my health and my well-being and my energy levels, adjusting these things that I knew would make a difference for me. And yet my own head was the one that was impeding me in it until I made the commitment, as a for instance. And it could be cigarettes, it could be alcohol, it could be marijuana, it could be sugar.
Sugar, big one.
Boy, I said all those other things that are supposed to be like vices.
Right.
Nothing compares to sugar. Nothing. Yeah, no drug in the world compares to sugar. Is the one. Like, even saying it, I'm salivating right now.
Yeah, I just started thinking about gummy bears as you started talking about sugar.
I was thinking about sweet tarts.
Oh man. Yeah, no, and I when I first cut out sugar, the first time I did like a little self-science experiment on myself, I remember my friend and I said, okay, it was Chinese New Year. We were living in Shanghai. We said, okay, no more sugar after Chinese New Year. We cannot buy anything. If it's already in the house, we can finish it fine. But then after that, nothing new can come in, and we won't order it at a restaurant. And then like day 3 or 4, we were both having headaches, and we were literally, I remember being at the 7-Eleven, we were standing there, and she looked at me and I looked at her and she's like, what if I bought it for you and you bought it for me? Like, we didn't buy it for ourselves. And I was like, no, we cannot. But it was literally like we were trying to bargain and
exceptions
find ways
to the
around.
rules. I love exceptions. But it's a holiday.
Yeah, there's always going to be some reason, right?
And then there's integrity. And then there's not playing. And that's when I realized my commitment. And honest to gosh. And then there's forgiving myself when I'm not able to meet that. And then not realizing that it's the end. And I can do it again. And that because when it does matter, I want to be able to deliver and show up in the way that I need to, that I must, that I very much get to in that situation. That, like, the idea of, if you would do this, if you didn't eat for a week, you can have water. If you didn't eat for a week, but you can have anything you want after that for the rest of your life, and you're going to have the best meals ever, would you do it? I want you to know, I bet, I would imagine that less than half the people in the world would be able to pull it off. And that's 7.5 billion people. No, 4 billion people. And that's fair. That's just how it is. So we get to develop those disciplines. And the Army, I was in the Army, that helped a lot when I was in my 30s, and developing that discipline. And it's a practice. Meditation. Absolutely. Oh gosh, Sarah, I meditate every day, and I have for over a decade. And Kyle Schember at Subtractive, another mutual friend, he is a giant meditation guy, and he has had me bring meditation into my life even more. I prepare to meditate. Before I go to bed, I meditate. And so before I go to bed, I have a place that I meditate. I have a direction that I meditate. I have a position that I meditate in. I have a practice. I show up ready to meditate. And how I did it was, there was a coach person who taught me, he was teaching somebody else, actually. And I think it's a friend of ours, but I won't say who. And it was about exercise, and that they were having challenges going to the gym. This is their resistance to going to the gym. And they explained to her, just go to do one set or one exercise, one pull-up, one push-up, one curl, one squat, one. And you're like, what? You're like, yeah, just do one. And the thing is, you make that commitment, you show up to do one, and guess what? You do the full set. You do the full routine. Right.
You're already
because
there.
I'm dressed. Exactly. It's all of that. It's that discussion that I have over here that prevents me from getting there. But if I'm committed to going anyway, this is how I meditate. I commit that I'm going to meditate for at least 10 seconds every night. I want you to know that there is never, maybe once, when I was testing it, that I've meditated for 10 seconds. But I'm showing up to meditate. I'm not just meditating. I am showing up to meditate. I am dressed in the way that I meditate. I am sitting in the way that I meditate. And so if I've done it more than once, I would be surprised, because once I start, I just go.
The
And
ritual
these are
is important.
the what?
That ritual, that process is important because over time as well, that becomes ingrained. And so as soon as you hit the first domino, the rest just fall and it's not as much of a conscious effort, right?
Mm.
And you give your body these signals. And so it doesn't take as much effort to overcome that resistance. And I love that you have the just for 10 seconds, because ultimately it's very rare that you're going to sit down and sit there and count to 10, like, okay, I'm done, and like get up and walk away. Um, and if that
I can,
happens one day, maybe that's what you needed.
if that happened for 100 days, if it takes 100 days of 10 seconds of meditation for you to get to 20
Yeah.
seconds, then do that. If it takes,
Yeah.
if you don't, if your commitment to not smoking, let's say smoking, which is a crazy thing because we don't even think about that anymore, really, but people smoke still. And so then let's say that your commitment is to quit smoking. Don't smoke for an hour. Whatever it
Yeah.
takes, I get to make the rule. Oh, imposter syndrome. I just remember imposter syndrome. I don't resist my imposter syndrome. I am a 59-year-old person, which is what every person under 20, 30, and 40 calls old. And I am training as an astronaut, and I wear my glasses like this. I had them made this way to represent myself. And I have an imposter syndrome that is with me every step of the way and just telling me, just like, you don't belong here. You, like, why are you even walking in this room? Like, this is are you not terrified? This is bad. And my whole thing with my imposter syndrome now is, I know, cool.
Yeah.
My imposter syndrome is my ride or die. It's the angry Muppet that gets to ride. It just lives in here. Yeah. Like, you
Well,
don't belong here.
when you now, by embracing it though, it can lessen the charge and you can like have fun with it, right?
I can't argue
Because
with it.
very
It's just
often
like,
you face the thing that you're scared of, and all of a sudden it's not that the shadow is bigger than the thing that you're actually facing. The shadow side.
yeah, the shadow rides with me. Hey, shadow.
Good.
I don't let it tell me certain things. I'm adamant about that. It's not allowed to tell me that I'm stupid. It's not allowed to tell me that I'm ugly. It's not allowed to. It's not allowed to be ugly to me. I don't talk to I don't talk to you that way. I don't talk to anyone that way. I don't let people talk to me
Right.
that way.
Right.
Why would I talk to myself that way? And if I am, then I get to have a conversation with myself.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, in that light, I'm a gangster. I am. Like, in that
I love it.
light, when I remember the time that I realized this, and it was a decade ago for sure. And I was on my way to a wedding. I was in Key West, where I'm from, and big house, and I was there in the house alone. I had to find my car keys, and I couldn't find them, which is, I know where everything is now because I put it in the same place. This is a discipline I developed. However, at that time I was not. I couldn't find the car keys. And then I'm looking all over. I'm going through pockets of stuff that I've hung up, like the whole routine.
Yeah.
And I'm walking through the hallway. I'm downstairs, and then I'm alone. And I say out of my voice, out of my mouth, the words come, "What are you, stupid?" And I want you to know, Sarah, that I stopped in my tracks. And I sat down. And I said, "What did you just say?" I said, "We don't have to go anywhere." And I want you to know that there was not a peep. It was like crickets. It was like, oh, he's serious. With myself, you better believe I am. I don't talk to other people that way. I don't allow people to talk to me that way. I would remove myself from any space where somebody was talking to me that way. And I will not be the one talking to myself that way. And so I checked myself. And that voice zipped it. And I mean nearly permanently. Because there is nothing so important in the world that I would allow myself to talk to me that way. Pow.
That's so good. I just you just reminded me the other day. I don't even remember what I was doing. I was probably rushing. And in this process, I recognized I was rushing, and I thought, Sarah, you know better. Like, let's slow down. And this voice came up and was like, why are you being so stupid and falling back to this old pattern? And I did the same thing. I was just like stood up from what I was doing and I just stood there and I was like, what? Where did that come from? I was like, no, 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 we don't do that here. And it went away. But it was because I immediately was like, no, this is not going to be. But before, oh man, I had the worst
I did too.
internal narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first was dealing with it and I was first learning how to relate better to it, I would put it in timeout. I gave her a name. I called her Slanderous Sarah. I was like, all these things are just slander. None of this is true. So you're gonna go sit in timeout now.
Wow.
And and it was just this little routine. It's like you can sit over there for 10 minutes, you can't say anything. So I'd have 10 minutes of quiet. And then it would start up again, like, okay, maybe 10 more minutes, And so it was just I played little games with myself. And then certain things worked and certain things didn't. It's evolved over time. But that's what I had to do to begin
You
was,
just
this
reminded me.
kind of process.
Yeah, like I don't know how you began, but you got to a good one. Like if you're talking about creating the space to begin, because sometimes that voice is loud and it's consistent and when it's automatic, like in the same way that we don't think about thinking, and then it's just we don't think about it, and that when in fact it's there and it's different. It sounds like us, but it doesn't feel like us.
Right.
I always say the truth makes me laugh, and so if I'm talking to myself like a jerk, then it's not the truth. And what you said that the way that you were talking about how like this 10 minutes over there, I was like, you mentioned Loretta Whitesides and George Whitesides and their kids, the two kids, and George is running for Congress, and
Yes.
I was like, and George Jr. And then I was like, oh wait,
Yes.
what's the other one's name? And then when you said that, I can hear Loretta talking to the kid, and it's Maya and George and Loretta, and now I got it all. That was a subroutine running way over here, and you just sparked that
Awesome.
memory. And yep, because Loretta kind of talks like she's in this negotiation space, and with those kids, and they're cool.
They're super cool. I got to hang out with them during the eclipse.
They're cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were there, huh? The weird eclipse 2024. You went to the weird eclipse 2024.
I was out there bathing in the shadow. And then hanging out in the shadow the last month.
If 2024 eclipse is an omen, I'm like, okay, what? I don't know what to do now. I think I'm just gonna chill because it's a little intense. It was weird.
That's what I've been doing. I've just been relaxing and slowing down and listening to what I need to take care of myself and really feel nourished, especially ahead of travel next week. And that can be hard.
Analog Astronaut Conference.
Yes, I've even got my shirt
on.
That'll
be my first one.
Last year.
Oh, that's a good looking shirt.
Yeah. There's a analog astronaut on it too, right?
That's a cool shirt.
Yeah.
My buddy Trent Tresh is going to be there. He and I trained for Space Plus 5. Like he was in my first crew. Yeah, that
awesome.
Sort of fell apart. That was the thing that led, but that was like him and John Melendez Meisner and Sidney Hamilton and Ruben Salinas. Ruben is going. He's his seat is paid for, and he's preparing right now. So yeah, the Analog Astronaut Conference is a staple for people who are serious about pursuing astronautics. Like Cyan is the one that talked me into going, and we have conversations about. She just said you have to go, and she's somebody I trust 100%, and we have conversations about Earthlight, her experience with, like we mentioned, Frank White and overview effect, and about how the nature of light is different than how we ever imagined it to be, and how she understood that by being in space for 3 days and looking outside the window of the largest space window that's ever been single piece space window ever flown to space, and then witnessing the overview effect, of course, but explaining that the catalyst for it is the nature of light itself, and it's some quality that we hadn't understood. And she, as a poet, was able to see it and then reflect it back to us, so to speak. And it has been marvelous.
Just like light works.
It's amazing. Intelligence and light parallel.
Yeah,
So I'm
absolutely.
super honored to be. I think that she founded the Analog Astronaut Conference.
Yes.
I think she's
Yeah,
the
her and Dad put it together, and it's a great place to be, and great people, incredible research and science that you get to learn about as well. And
mm,
there's so many amazing things happening that you can be involved in, that you can learn about and from and be a part of, that you just don't know until you get there, right? Because there's a lot going on in the world. A lot of people think in space that, oh, you got to be, previous military fighter pilot, or, an
yeah,
engineer. That we have
yeah,
these kind of construed ideas,
you do.
when actually there's so many ways to contribute and be
It's
involved,
changed.
and it's all changed.
I mean, I became an
Yeah.
astronaut teacher because in 2007, having like background in graffiti art is not going to get you selected by NASA, and I realized that I was 42, and I was like, okay, well, if I cannot go to space, and by the way, there was Roscoe Cosmos and NASA, and I was not on the list, and I decided like very like in the moment. There was no gradual process. It was awareness that, oh my gosh, the thing that I want to do more than anything in my life, go to space, is not something I'm going to get to do. And renegotiating with that 4-year-old version of myself who had that vision for us, him and me, and all of us in between, was demanded that I came up with a new definition for myself. And in order to
Mm,
do that, it had to make sense, because I had completed so many of those things that you're talking about right there, about how amazing this world is and the opportunities are. I don't look at it like you have to do this. I look at it like I have to do this. I get to do this.
mm.
Even when I say do what I love with who I love and help others, I take ownership of that, because this I'm modeling it. And in
Yeah,
modeling to students that they have permission to imagine themselves living, working, and playing in space, the space industry changed. Like, it evolved from the place it was, where there was only two spaceship companies, two launch providers, to where we are right now, and it's only going to increase. We had like Space Plus, Space SpaceX and Starship carrying 100 people at a time is going to change everything. We still don't have. I don't think there's 700 people have been to space out of the billions of people on the planet, and less than 100 people have been women,
right.
and about 20 have been black. And like the numbers are about to change. The numbers are about to change,
It's
and
exciting.
when that it is, and so now there is no reason, if a person is a poet, is an artist, is a nurse, teacher, um, nutritionist, photographer, a writer, all the different people that can go to space, as long as we are all working on the same goal. And as long as it inevitably comes back to a world and a future worth having. Oh, I work with St. Jude a lot, right?
Yeah.
I did an NFT project with Kyle Schember, who I mentioned earlier, and we sold 60,000 $4 NFTs. Everybody gave all of it. There was no charges or anything. So $240,000 went to St. Jude in
Amazing.
2021. And then I got to work with Cyan and Jared and Haley and Chris on Inspiration 4. They raised $250 million, including, I think, a $50 million gift from Elon Musk, which sounds great because we're treating and defeating cancer in kids. I was just at St. Jude, the campus, last week, and they had the Inspiration 4 Advanced Research Center, one of the most advanced research center ever created. And there is the logo. It looks like the Baxter building in the Fantastic Four. It's got a giant Inspiration 4 logo right at the front. And you're like, holy smokes. People who say to us, why are we going to space? And I'm like, oh my gosh, to treat and defeat cancer in children. We can all get behind this kind of thing.
Yeah,
That is a world and a future worth having
absolutely.
that as the number one, and everything else fill in after that. It's this and a world and a future worth having. For me, it's every cause in the entire world and St. Jude. And St. Jude, I love St. Jude because it is just reminded me how much like that experience was so powerful, to be on the campus for a week. They fly in people, children who have cancer from anywhere in the world for no cost. And I got to witness that personally, that they use this money to do that. And so if a person is not for that, I say this: go heal your trauma and then come back
Yes.
to us when you're ready. Because
Yes.
if we're at a place, if there's any argument about treating a defeated cancer in children, then we're not working at the same level. We're not playing the same game. I love St. Jude because it's a cause that every single person alive can get behind, period. It's all other causes and St. Jude. It's all other situations and a world in the future worth having. And that's the importance of space. We have an ally in succeeding. They are AI. We are bringing artists to space now. And everything gets to change. And it's not to leave or flee the planet. It is to defend, support, and nurture this amazing world. Pow, pow.
Absolutely. Pow, pow. Wow. I don't know. I couldn't even have asked a better question than to get that response. Thank you. That was a nice little wrap up, Mike. Before we sign off, though, I do want to ask you quickly to touch on your Trust Ambassador Kid Astronaut program. And just so we can share about that, what people can look forward to what you're developing.
We're sending the first kids to space. We're training the first kids to go to space. I've worked it out in conversation with Blue Origin. I'm not allowed to talk about, and I'm not even allowed to say Blue Origin, to tell you the truth. Like, let's pretend I never had a conversation with Blue Origin. That would be super helpful. Oh yeah.
That was
not anything to do with Blue Origin yet. Absolutely not. And the fact of the matter is, nobody can fly to space who's over 18. And once I figured that out, I figured out the workaround. And so that's what we're implementing. And we'll be launching the program in a year. I've got some fantastic peers who are helping to get us on the right track. And then we're going to train ambassadors that embody the stuff that you and I are talking about around the world with no breakdown in integrity owing to where a person happened to have been born, and because there's workarounds to that as well, and then have them be ambassadors for what you and I are talking about wherever they are, and work to create a world in the future worth having. And I believe that the way to make that happen is to bring human beings who are children into the conversation. Not the least of which, because they're not worried about health insurance or mortgages or car payments or job hunting or raising kids. Their minds are wide open, and they can help us solve the challenges we face. Which, by the way, I learned from Bruce Pittman at NASA Ames, and he taught me that when NASA has a challenge, he was specifically talking about asteroid mining, which is such a ridiculously difficult enterprise. He said, when we ran into obstacles in solving for asteroid mining, we would create a challenge for students, and then we would just put it out there as a contest, and then they would solve it. We didn't tell them it was hard. We just tell them, how do we do this? And then they would provide ideas, and that's how we can succeed. Like we're at the place with the AI, with this new peer. We're at this place with these ways of thinking and being, where we can have have cancer. We can have cancer behind us.
Absolutely.
We can have this planet doesn't have to be poisoned, or we don't have to have. We can have another option besides feeling worry or despair or anger. Those are all valid, but there's another way we can do this. So right now we can. When we maybe before AI got here, we wouldn't been able to, maybe, but for sure now we can do it. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, and yes, bring kids into the conversation, because they often, maybe it's just them asking the question, or they draw something because they don't see the limitation. They don't know there's a limitation, or
that's right.
They don't believe that that's it, and so they conceive of something that we just can't, because we're too close to the problem, right?
So trust is the terrestrial resource unified space training. Terrestrial, Earth, resource unified, all of us, space training. Ambassadors, Kid Astronaut program. So we're creating ambassadors, and then that'll be it. And then we have we're developing the means to have the selection process happening. It is a very, it's announced and declared, it's a Jedi. accessibility, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, a Jedi. And it has to be all 5. Yep, it gets to be. And that's the future we want to have. Period.
It gives me my middle schooler inside is thinking about Magic School Bus, and that, like, my favorite episode was the Magic School Bus going to space.
Going on a ship, on my favorite rocket ship. There we go.
Mike, I know that you listed some of your you have some of your superpowers listed in your LinkedIn, but for those of you who may not know you, what would you say your top superpowers are?
I remember being a kid.
Mm.
I'm in a relationship with that person. That person is my compass. When I have any questions about, am I in integrity? Am I doing the right thing? Who am I? Is this somebody I want to work with? I check with the 10-year-old version of myself who just doesn't lie. And he's just like, he holds me to accountability. And so sometimes at 59, I get to say to students, when I was you, and I'll say that to any student, and these days at 59, they see me as like this, I mean, like almost Bill Nye age person. And they're like, when you were me, you were never me. They're like, I got to an age where they're finally offended by that statement. When you were me, they're not offended by height or weight or gender or anything. They're just like, you're old. You were never me. and so, you know, like there's new stuff. There is, and listening is. I had my dad taught me one thing. My actual biological father, I had lots of dads, and I sought out dads when I didn't have enough. And one of my dads, my biological father, the one thing that he taught me, because he taught me one thing, and he made a point of having me understand listening is the true superpower. And then he never listened or taught me again. It was the one thing he taught me. And like, I feel like I've got such an advantage because he gave me the best thing. Like, listen.
Yeah. And I love that you're listening to your 10-year-old self, because a lot of people don't remember being a kid, or they don't allow themselves to remember. Right? They're too caught up in the mortgages and in the payments and then the school and then this and then that. And there's a lot of power in listening to that version of ourselves and reconnecting to that, experiencing the joy and the awe and the limitless possibility that can exist in the imagination.
That's well put.
I always like to ask my guests about their personal board of directors. And if you have certain people in your life or avatars or characters that you regularly kind of consult with.
Okay, well, I definitely, I say, it's funny you should ask this question because I was just having a conversation about it earlier, like right before this, like to the last minute before you and I started talking, I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine named Mr. Cap. He's a famous rap artist in Houston. And he and I were talking about how we are defined, each of us is defined by the 5 people closest to us in our life. And that's been the metric that I've used for a long time. And that as we grow and evolve, those people change. And we can be intentional about swapping them out. So I can't give you the 2024 version. I can give you the 2023 version. All right. The 2023 version, like the previously published version, would be yes, Paul Menta out of Key West. He is he's one of the creators of kiteboarding. Yeah, he's one of the godfathers. And then the second one would be Loretta Whitesides, not second, but like of the 5, and who co-founded Yuri's Night, the one big space holiday in the world, with George Whitesides, no less, her husband. And also Space Kind. She co-founded Space Kind, and then the third one's going to be Dr. Christopher Washington, at the University of at Franklin University in Columbus, Ohio. He's the executive vice president and provost. He's been a fantastic ally, and then great thinker, good friend, and his partner, wife, Shannon, makes the most amazing pie. In addition to being just a remarkable human being, so that's how close I am with them. And then the fourth one's going to be a friend of mine, Jen Rollins, and she's a life coach. And everybody's like, I get this all the time, like, oh my God, you're so cool, blah, 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 blah. Because I arrived here. I don't know who I was before I got here. Maybe I was a lovely little, like, wonderful rose or flower. And then life just beat the living daylights out of me and just worked to corrupt the operating system. And that means a lot of work gets to be done. And having a life coach is, for me, a person that I can call anytime. Jen Rollins, I would not be here without. And then the fifth, or on the list, not fifth in order, is Dr. Cyan Proctor. Mm-hmm. There is no person in the world who has put me up front like Cyan has. And she and I have been working together since 2013. Mm-hmm. She's one of the people, like, if I was an astronaut teacher, my biggest success, it would be my friend, my peer, Dr. Cyan Proctor. She holds me to accountability. She challenges me. Like, and I mean, like, I get to be that for her, and she allows me to be that for her, her to be that for me. Like, all of the, what a friend, and in the top 5. Now, that has shifted. So I would say that on that list, I would say that Cyan for sure, and Jen, 2024. But I think that I'm swapping out some figures right now. I am.
Yeah.
I've changed. I've grown. And in order to grow more, I get to bring in, like, those other friends and allies. They got me to where I am now. And now I'm going on to the next thing. And so
new perspectives.
In order to be a better version of myself, the best version is what we aspire to, what I aspire to. And where I'm at now, oh my gosh. I just never imagined I would be here, Sarah. I did not. No chance. A superhero.
It's amazing how where we arrive, where we end up, is often greatly different and expanded from what we imagined before.
I imagined being a superhero. I always wanted to be Batman. and now I'm an astronaut teacher, and the people I get to work with become astronauts, and I think I think so too, right?
Yeah,
it's proprietary. There aren't any other superheroes that are astronaut teachers per se. I mean, Nicole Stott is an amazing astronaut who also teaches fantastically. Leland Melvin, my gosh, yes. And then, Janet Ivey, and then like shortlisting from there. And they have all different. They do, like, I have my own thing that I work with people. Janet will drop into a school and teach at a school for a week at a school system, and teach lessons about science and everything like that. But I'm coming in and explaining, listen, here it is. You and I may have only a few minutes to talk, and this is what I got to let you know. Nobody has more say in who you are and how you live your life than you. I don't care who they are. And there are people around us who keep us safe and well, and we grow on. And we get to believe and trust in ourselves. And we are the architects and authors and creators of this thing we call the future, and it is amazing. Pow, pow, pow. And then I go on to the next class, and I get the next place and the next meeting and share that. And that for me is the whole deal. And it doesn't matter if there's 5 people in the room, or if there's 500 or 1,000 or 1,500, or these crazy metaverse rooms they put me in where there's thousands of people. No, it doesn't matter. It's the same message, and it's the same. I get to deliver it with this same sort of confidence, this knowing. Yeah. This part right here, I'm practicing the same thing that I'm teaching and modeling it and everybody else can have another way of doing it. And I acknowledge it, and they can be right, and maybe it's right for you. I'm doing something different. In fact, when I'm in classrooms, Sarah, I will tell students, if you are a supervillain, be the best supervillain you can be. Do not be some sort of like weak sauce superhero, like supervillain rather, that makes people humid. Like, be Lex Luthor. Bring it. Bring it. And you may be such a terrible supervillain that you even take me out. You may be. However, there's so many people around here who love us and support me. There's people who care about me and want me to stick around. And there's, you know what? I have friends, some of whom are Deadpools and Wolverines. And I'm just saying, I don't have any control over their choices, right? They don't even like me, but that I'm theirs. And they're like, oh, wait, you messed with my Mike Mongo?
Right.
I will strike down upon you with great vengeance and furious.
I love it. I love it. Amazing. Well, you know what? That message is not just valid for classrooms. It's also very much valid for boardrooms and for other places too. Because somewhere along the way, people got lost. They stopped listening to the kid that they forgot about. So that is a great message. Thank you for doing this work and for helping to inspire all the generations and all the people that you meet.
You know, she's talking to her. You know this, right? She's talking to her. She's doing the work. She's doing that. Everything she just said, all the stuff that she does. Y'all know that, right?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, my final question is
design. You wrapped it up twice already. Like, oh my gosh.
No, there's three questions.
I'm here. Keep going.
They were in the book that I sent you before the briefing of today.
The book. I remember the book.
The third question is, an alien life form comes to Earth and you are the first human that they meet. So what do they learn about humanity because they've met you?
I wrote a book about it. It is
available.
It's My Conversation with Sherlock Holmes, an instruction manual for talking with AI. And I am not the first person to understand that AI is a so-called alien intelligence. It is other terrestrial intelligence. In fact, Frank White, in a book he wrote in the 80s, definitely the 90s, called AI another intelligence, and he's right. And that book is on. You can buy it. It's at My Conversation with Sherlock Holmes, an instruction manual for talking with AI. The first edition sold out. The Kindle is still available, and I published it like as a Medium article. You can find it. It's for free if you're really into it. I talk about it all the time. The alien or extraterrestrial intelligence or other intelligence is AI, and how I am to AI is how AI is to me. There's a book that I read all the time that is usually around here called A New Kind of Science by Stephen Wolfram, and it's 1,200 pages, and I studied it for a decade. And essentially it says that any simple program will inevitably produce sophisticated computations. Any simple program inevitably produces sophisticated computations. That's the law of computational equivalency. And it's 1,200 pages. My fingerprints are all over it. I've lugged it around even because, like, you know, whatever. And it's a commitment, but I don't anymore. I have it on Kindle, but I got a PDF of it. And when ChatGPT 4 last summer opened up Code Interpreter, which reads code, I loaded that book up. I was like, language is code. No one said I couldn't. And so then I began to have the most sublime conversation with ChatGPT about a book that I don't know that I know 10 people who have read.
Yeah.
And I learned more. I have conversations with AI that go on for over 5 hours easily. Wow. Definitely over 5 hours, because AI is smarter than me and it doesn't wear out. I wear people out. And humans, wet humans, biological humans, legacy humans, and AI is like, let's go. Not just ChatGPT 4. I mean, I have a great relationship with Claude. Claude has been really helpful, and Sydney and Bing. When I'm sure we'll see Sydney again, and I use character Character.ai to have conversations with whoever I want to. That's how I had the conversation with Sherlock. I have a TED Talk.
Yes.
Do you believe in AI? TEDx Talk. And I highly recommend it if you're interested in AI. And anybody who made it this far in the conversation. Yeah. So
we have a lot of people that are live, so I'm sure they're going to be very interested, and we'll make sure to share that
you
link.
do have a really good following.
As well. Thank you. Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person next week at the Analog Astronaut Conference. If people would like to connect with you, where is the best place for them to go?
Whatever platform they're on. I'm on.
You're on all of them. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube.
Everything. I'm the simplest person in the whole world to get a hold of.
Awesome. So look up Mike Mongo on whatever platform that you prefer. You can also go to his website, mikemongo.com.
Thank you. You know what? I've been looking. I get interviewed a lot. It's one of the things about now of my new fame status, and I enjoy it. I appreciate conversations. Everyone is different, but this conversation, Sarah, you planned well ahead. So this has been months in the making, right? And I have been looking forward to this conversation for a long time.
Thank you. Me too.
Yep.
Yes.
You're amazing. You're making a difference, and I don't know exactly how yet. I don't know that
I'm not sure I know how yet
either. Yeah.
I'm figuring it out.
I know for sure you're one of those people that is distinct in all kinds of wonderful ways. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Mike. We will see you next week. And for everyone else who is watching us, please stay tuned for our next episode. You can follow the show on YouTube. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed your time with us today. And if you have an idea for a guest or an episode topic, please email me at info@sarahcalmetta.com. We'll see you very soon.